Good morning and welcome to the Hoosier Huddle Tailgate Show. We are inside Assembly Hall today since there are 40-mile-an-hour winds and some rain coming, and our equipment is not that good to where it can stand up to that. But Indiana football is taking on Rutgers today, final home game of the season, senior day for 22 guys. Kickoff is scheduled to be at noon on Big Ten Network. Hopefully these thunderstorms stay away and we could get through the game without a delay. Alex, both teams coming in at 4-6. Just how big is this for both teams?
Yeah, I mean, you said it, 4-6, 2 games left. I mean, this is it. So you either win or you go home at this point for both teams. So should be really hungry. Rutgers kind of collapsed in their first game of the year against Eastern Michigan. So if they didn't do that, they're sitting at 5 wins, one way from a bowl win. So 4-6 for both teams. The weather's going to be crazy, rain, 40-plus mile-an-hour winds, senior day, a lot of stuff going on today that could make it just a crazy, crazy game, but huge for both teams, like you said.
Yeah, the wind, it looks like it's coming across the field, at least from outside of the stadium, with the bowl and the enclosure on the other side. Wind might be swirling there. Tough day to throw the ball. Indiana has had trouble running it. What are the keys that Indiana's offense is going to have to do to get some points on the board?
Yeah, I mean, so we saw it last week. It was a nice change of pace. You know, the running game finally picked up some chunk yards again consistently, right? And that was a huge deal. I thought Cole Guest had probably his best game as a Hoosier last week. Real good game. Him and Ellison was kind of a nice 1-2 punch. I think mixing it up with those different looks between Ellison and Guest is a big key. I also think staying committed to it is a big key. At times when it's not working, IU completely shifts 80% pass. That won't get it done today. We need to have a consistent running game throughout. So I really look for Guest to have another big game, but also to keep kind of that combination and that consistency going throughout the game.
Yeah, and you see Indiana's use those short passes, screen passes. Devontae Williams is a guy who's really come through on those screen passes, some real wheel route passes. Maybe Peyton Ramsey's ready to go this week and give them an edge running wise, but short passes should be okay today. I don't think 50-mile-an-hour winds. I don't know if it will affect the short passing game as much as the long passing game. And IU's really been pretty good at the short crossing routes, screen passes, things like that to move the ball. To me, this game might come down to who scores the touchdown. Field goals are going to be difficult to kick this week, even though as good as Griffin Oaks is, he's not Superman with super strength, and kicking into a 50-mile-an-hour wind is difficult for even the best of kickers.
Right.
So special teams, wet ball. On the defensive side of the ball, Indiana has a lot of seniors, a lot of guys playing their last game in Memorial Stadium who want to send a message. What are some keys defensively?
Yeah, so like you said, a bunch of seniors. One thing I'd been seeing on social media was they're all putting like one last ride at the Rock. So I really thought that was kind of telling. Huge turnaround since Coach Allen got here, obviously. We saw a bunch of good players turn into just really, really solid playmakers at the Big Ten level. So it should be fun to watch them out there one more time. But the key for me is cutting down the big plays. Like we talked about, they're not super good on offense. They're not super consistent. They can't break off big plays all the time. Add in the weather, so I think keeping them to those shorter gains, not letting them break off chunks consistently is going to be the key. Because I'm not sure with the weather and just the way their offense is set up that they're going to be able to rip off 80-yard drives all game. So I think really keeping those big plays kind of out of the box score, keeping them in front of you, and just making the simple play on defense, I think is the key today.
Yeah, Rutgers' running game is only ranked 62 in the country. It's middle of the pack, but Gus Edwards and Robert Martin are good backs. They're averaging above 4.5 yards a carry each. They're guys who can grind out drives. Gus Edwards has big playability, but he's still around I think 600, 700 yards for the season. They'll use both of them. Their quarterback Giovanni Ricchino completing like 47% of his passes. They don't ask him to do much. I thought Illinois went to Jeff George Jr. a little too much last week. I think this is going to be more of a let Ricchino manage the game, use this running game. If IU can, as you said, stop these for short gains, especially on first down, if you get them into 2nd and 7, I trust this IU defense to stop them on 2 runs and force them to throw, because 47% of the passes, they haven't played in the wind like this all year, and that's a great way to get some takeaways for this IU secondary, who had their chances last week to get a couple more, and it just seems that takeaway tide has turned in IU's favor, where we're seeing the ball on the ground a lot more, chances for interceptions that we didn't see at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I think that's a big key as well. Obviously, taking care of the ball today. It should be a pretty even game. I know we're favored by 10 plus, which is somewhat surprising. But being at home, I think on senior day, that kind of gives us the fire we need. But just protecting the ball, making sure on defense that we're not giving up those big plays. I think those are 2 huge keys today.
Yeah, and my final key, I think, is special teams. Hayden Whitehead has been outstanding this year. He put 5 inside the 20 last week. Should have had 6 or 7. Could have had 6 or 7. But he's not a guy who booms punts all that much in the air where wind affects it. He's more of a line drive guy. He can kick it on the line, could kick it into the wind and things like that. So I don't think it'll play that big of a deal with him mentally. Return-wise, Luke Timian, he's shown that he's sure-handed. Outside of getting smoked by a Wisconsin player, he's caught the punts, and that's probably the best play today on punt returns. Field the punt, don't fumble it, don't set them up with easy field position, and then kickoff returns. We'll see. Look, Devontae Williams is close to being 4th all-time on the IU kick return yards list, which is kind of surprising because he hasn't broken any big ones. But this could be a day where they kick it short. He has to move up. We saw last year at Rutgers. It was windy a bit, and he muffed the kick. He's got to move up to where he can field it on the run, and maybe this is the day he breaks one.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I love kind of going with Williams now. I love, like we talked about, the short passing for IU is a key on offense today. Kind of love the last couple of weeks how they've moved him into the slot and some creative things to come out of the backfield. I think you'll see that a good amount today. 5-6 catches for Williams.
Yeah. All right. That does it for today's pregame show. We'll be back with the postgame show. Hopefully there are no delays in this game. Alex, I feel pretty good about it, despite the weather and all that stuff. So noon kick on Big Ten Network. If you're not at the game, you can always listen on the radio as well. So thanks for joining me, Alex. Enjoy the stand. Stay dry. Stay warm.
Yes.
And we'll talk to you guys after the game. Follow us on Twitter at Hoosier_Huddle. Evan McShane is doing our live tweeting today. And then all your post-game stuff will be on HoosierHuddle.com.
Yeah.